a while. I was like, okay, I need to gavel.
Where's the gavel? When I saw the fourth come in, I thought that was a sign you couldn't get off. It is what you
Cut that straw out.
When we ask if the meeting is properly posted, or is there a quorum present, you just say yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I knew that much. I just forgot the beginning part of it. I was like, okay.
Time is now 12:04. We'll call a special meeting of the Board of Trustees of Goose Creek CISD to order. Mr. Sampson, was the meeting properly posted?
Yes, it was.
Mr. Sampson, do we have a quorum present?
Yes, we do.
All right. Notice for the record that we have 5 board members present. Mr. Augustine Laredo and Ms. Jessica Woods are absent. All right. Before we begin the next phase, or the next section of our meeting, I'd like to ask if we'd all stand, take a little 30-second moment of silence to honor 9/11 victims and first responders and anyone who has been affected by that. Amen. All right, thank you. Next item is number 2. We will hold a public hearing for the. Or you can go ahead and knock that one out.
Yeah, we'd like to invite Sarah Leon up to provide us with information based upon the public hearing requirement for the amended application of Covestro LLC, Comptroller application number 1232.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Members of the board. I'm here today with my colleague, Derek Eugene. Derek works in our office on school finance matters, including bond and 313. And he is helping us on this. All right. He said I could do something. There we go. Back to. I appreciate y'all calling a special meeting for this project. The negotiations on this project have been animated, and as a consequence, we have to go through the full process of the Comptroller's office for an amendment of this nature. And the company is planning on making a final decision later this week, I think the 14th. And so it was important to have a decision from the board to bring to them. So I know you don't ordinarily meet at this time and place, but I really appreciate you doing that. If up on the screen is the estimated school finance summary, which gives you can you all see it there?
Yes.
No? Okay, great. Gives you the overview of the project. If you recall the last time we were here, I told you we were going to need to do an amendment because the limitation period isn't starting until 2025, but they are going to start building in 2022. So you'll see that we've changed the schedule a little bit there. It's still the same project schedule, but there's 1 year, 2024-25 school year, they're going to be paying full M&O taxes as well as full INS taxes on this project, and that'll be again in the 24-25 school year. Once it goes under limitation, the company will be paying M&O taxes for the first $100 million of value, and then it will be paying the full tax levy on the INS side. So there's a substantial benefit for your bonded indebtedness for the enlarged scope of this project. We've negotiated in the blue column sort of unique structure on this. The company ordinarily would not have to pay supplemental payments in those first 3 years of the agreement because they're not receiving a tax benefit. So those would roll forward from year to year. We've asked them to consider paying them in those first years at a rate of $1.25 million. So you can see that benefit in there. And then it goes down through the value limitation period and 1 year into after the limitation period ends. So the total amount of supplemental payments or payments in lieu of taxation that we've arrived on is $35 million to the school district. The company will receive a $53 million tax benefit. And again, the tax revenue to the district will be neutral. So the M&O will be neutral throughout the term of the agreement. In year number 4, you'll see that there's an $11.7 million revenue loss to the district. That's not an actual loss of revenue, but it's the difference between if the company came with no agreement in place or if they come with an agreement in place. We anticipate that'll be about $11.7 million, and that'll be a one-time payment. So I know the board has received those one-time revenue protection payments, but you can see what that will look like. So in addition to the $35 million, we'll also get almost a $12 million revenue protection payment. So I think the terms of this are very favorable to the district. I've prepared for you the statutory findings that walk through what's required under Chapter 313. And I wanted to bring your attention in particular to the comptroller has certified this project. The certificate was issued September 5th. And the comptroller does an analysis that looks at a 25-year period. In addition to looking at how this impacts the school district, the comptroller looks at how it impacts the school district as well. And their analysis is over a 25-year period, does this project pay back at least as much as they got in a tax break? And the answer is yes. They get $100 million tax incentive over the life of the agreement, and it will pay back to the district in M&O levy almost $140 over a 25-year period. So that does reimburse the district fully, or more than fully, over a 25-year period. We have an amended agreement. The unique provision, I think, in this agreement is different than the last time we brought it, is we are charging the full $100 per student in average daily attendance. The last time we came, it was $61 because of the high limitation amount. But they're paying a reduced amount in the first 3 years, the full amount for the 10-year limitation period, and then one more year after the limitation period ends. So this is different than last time, more beneficial to the district, more revenue. And then the final thing that is unique to this particular negotiation, and it's subject to board approval, and I want to make sure that you understand it, is finding number 17. This is not the statutory finding, this is a unique finding. So we've asked Covestro to consider making $1.25 million payments in those years in which they are not receiving a tax benefit. And the reason for that is we would prefer to have the money now than 15 years from now. And Covestro is willing to do that. But the question remained, what if by some act of God, some change in the tariff policies, something outside of our control prevented us from building, and we've paid you $3.5 million. Could you pay us back? And we said, no, we can't pay you back. But what we would consider doing is considering those monies as prepayment of M&O taxes on their existing facility. So the benefit to the district is we would be getting money in the early years as opposed to later on in the agreement. We are getting fully 40% of the net tax benefit out of this, which is a good deal. And the trade-off would be if for some reason they could not build this for reasons outside of their control, under board finding number 17, we would allow that to be considered as early tax payments for their existing facility. And I visited with and the only reason you can do this is because you collect your own taxes. I think if we were working with the county, we probably wouldn't be able to arrange this. So I've visited with Charlene, and she can do a ledger adjustment in the unlikely event that some act of God prevented them from building after they'd already committed to move forward. Are there any questions about that?
I just think one comment, the uniqueness of this over other agreements just simply be every customer is going to bring different needs to the table. And so Ms. Leon referenced that this has drug on a little bit, and some of it's been the customer themselves determining and deciphering what's best for them and their best interest, but would also comply with a win-win situation for us as a partner, and I think this is a good outcome, especially with the amendment.
And they're carrying forward only $1 million a year of that 1.25 payment for the first 3 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, so previously, okay, so let's clarify that. They're committing to pay up to 1.25 and no less than 250,000. If they don't
if they do
pay
the full 1.25, it all carries forward.
It carries forward, and it will be due and owing no later than in the 5th year of the agreement for those early years. That's a good point. In talking to them, it's not so much. I think it may be available. We'll send them a bill for it for the full amount, but this board finding 17 will help them have the peace of mind that if the thing doesn't build for some reason, that they haven't just given away money.
Excuse me. So, if by chance they don't build, then they're gonna put up $3.5 million or $3 million as a forwarding payment for being able not to build.
So that money, if they don't build it,
Mm-hmm.
the early payments will be considered prepayment of taxes on their current facility.
Okay, so that's $3 million per year until they build or not?
Well, it would be just basically giving them a credit
Okay,
for the money they paid early before they got any benefit from this agreement. So we're asking them to pay us before they get anything.
okay, so then when
We
they
give them
do
a credit.
decide to build, then it goes back to the original agreement?
Exactly.
Okay,
That is only if they don't build.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Sampson. Anyone else? Concerns, questions? Thank you.
Matt, do you have any questions to the public? You're good?
Oh,
All right, that's it.
All right, good
That's
deal.
it. Citizens participation, anybody sign up? Anybody sign up to speak? All right. Next action item is number 4, action items. A, consideration and possible action to enter amended findings.
So I believe that the district does recommend consideration and action to enter into the amended findings under the Texas Economic Development Act on the amended application for a limitation on appraised value of property for the school district maintenance and operation taxes. Texas Comptroller's Chapter 313, file number 1232, submitted by Covestro LLC.
Move approval. Second.
All right, we have a motion, Mr. Albert Shard, a second, Mr. Ricky Clem. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 5-0.
The district also recommends consideration possible action to approve an amendment or an amended agreement under the Texas Economic Development Act for a limitation on appraised value of property for the school district maintenance and operation taxes with Covestro LLC, Comptroller application number 1232.
We have a motion.
Move to approve.
I second.
We have a motion by Mr. Ricky Clem, a second by Mr. Ben Poppy. Do we have any further discussion?
That amendment becomes effective immediately.
Correct.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 5-0. All right, next item, we do have one administration. Do we feel we need to go to closed session to discuss this position, or are we good?
Mr. Clem, I move that we do not go to closed session to discuss the personnel item.
It's okay with me.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Mr. Poppy, I make the motion that we do not go to closed session.
Yeah. I was like,
Second.
okay.
I thought Ricky was our
What happened here? It's losing the mind.
All right, we will bypass closed session. Item C1, discussion, or C1a Administration Election.
At this time, administration recommends the approval of Academic Dean Canestra Bland for Goose Creek Memorial High School. Ms. Bland is currently an employee of the district and is being recommended for promotion into this position as Academic Dean.
Move approval of Canestra Bland as academic dean at Goose Creek Memorial High School.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Albert Shard, a second, Mr. Ricky Clem. Do we have any further discussion, questions?
When, excuse me, when they say dean, what exactly?
Like head AP.
The academic dean is the first assistant to the principal.
Okay.
And stands in for the principal in their absence and/or for district administrative meetings when necessary. They are responsible for the academic performance reports that come from that campus, meeting with the department levels, grade levels, and then reporting back to the principal as well as to central office.
Okay.
What is the,
Just for clarification, this is, if you remember, Mr. Sampson, Ms. Spite was promoted to junior high principal at the last meeting, causing this opening. We didn't lose any employees. We're just moving
Right.
people up in the system.
Christy Spice moved over to Horace Mann Jr. to become their principal, so she was in line as an academic dean. That was her next logical step. Created this vacancy in which Ms. Bland is being recommended for.
what is her current role? The
She's
teacher?
in the
or-
AP.
Oh, AP, okay.
At GCM.
Yes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right, we do have a motion, right?
And so,
And a second. Motion Richard, second Mr. Clem. All right, any further discussion? Okay,
that
all in
was the
favor?
discussion.
I think that was the discussion. All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion passes 5-0.
It's hard to do this at the wrong time of day.
Gotcha. All right, we have an adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All right, all in favor of adjournment, raise your right hand.
If you're hungry, come to the back.
Almost done. 12:18. Meeting over.
14 minutes. Is that a record?
No, we had about a 6-minute.
Yeah, we did.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, we did.
I'm so